Good evening, everybody. It's about 6 o'clock here in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. Tonight, Mike Seium is going to be here shortly. We are going to talk about the Black History Month and its relevance to Eritrea, Eritreans inside and outside the country, the history of it, how we should relate to it, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm really excited to talk about it. Mike has been in this country for a long time. He's been very active in the American political sphere. He is very knowledgeable about the history and the culture of this country. And we have a lot to say. So we're waiting for Mike to come in. Let's see if I can play something for you until he comes. Michael is into sports. He has the Eritrean Sports Federation in the Diaspora going. And I was going to, a lot of people may not know, but I do play the keyboards. And I have a song that I really wanted to honor him with today because he's been working in the Sports Federation for a long time. And if you remember, last year, he took the Eritrean Olympic team, the sled team, to China. And so, he's done a lot of good work in terms of sports. He's been a sportscaster. He's been in the U.S. The professional sports journalist. Mainly, he's done a lot of videos. He's taken a lot of videos uh, of a lot of sports, NBA finals and all that kind of stuff. So he had a very, very exciting uh, endeavor over the last 24, 25 years. Mike and I connect quite a bit. We talk a lot about these issues, and we want to make this public. Start sharing these conversations so our young generation could be a part of the conversation. To understand our perspective for how we see these things, because they basically grew up in this country and they have points of view. And if you have anything that you want to say, you want to express your point of view about how you see Black history, how you relate to Black history, what it means to you, make sure to send it in the chat box. Even if you want to call us, you can call us on that Facebook or YouTube platforms that we have. So I just wanted to encourage everybody to join in to chat. Can you hear me? Okay, I see that there are some people, so that's a good thing. So, but in the meantime, until Mike gets here, I'm going to say a couple of things about what's going on currently. It was that, what I think is important in terms of the current geopolitical developments in the Horn of Africa. And yeah, I see some, okay, I see people, just reacting to what I'm saying. 111, that's a good thing. Stars. Hey, buddy. Join in. I'm on. Okay, what is it on stream? Yeah, I sent you the link. Okay. So this is the thing. What's happening in our region. The African Union is having their annual summit, and that's going to be very big. There's going to be a lot of attention drawn to it. President Isaias went to Kenya. I think that was very, very significant in terms of what's going on in the region. The visit of President Isaias to Kenya, in my view, is probably the second most significant event that took place in our region. since the peace agreement between Eritrea and Ethiopia in 2018. The reason why it is significant is because um, for the first time, as you heard President William Ruto express himself, telling people that for the first time they're going to, they probably may have had an embassy, but they're going to make it they're going to have a representation there, a full-fledged embassy working in Eritrea. For it's really fascinating to me. A country as close as Kenya to Eritrea didn't have an embassy in Eritrea, but now, because they see the relations with Eritrea as a critical one, now that they have cemented their bilateral relations with Eritrea, now that they understood or understand how important Eritrea is to their future viability in the region, uh, it just shows you how much progress Eritrea has made in terms of its relations with the region, with the IGAD countries. This is Sudan, South Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Somalia, and Kenya by extension. Kenya is part of the East African bloc of countries, and it is not part of the Horn of Africa. But now Eritrea is back in IGAD, which is really significant. As you heard President Isaias say, the relationship with Kenya, the bilateral relations with Kenya, would not mean a lot unless it is coupled by our connection with the IGAD, by our presence in IGAD, our participation in IGAD. Our participation in IGAD is going to be extremely, extremely, extremely important for us, for the regional integration, for the economic development of the region. And so the reason President Isaias said that this time it is for real. The relationships that we have with Kenya, how that's going to progress, how it's going to move forward is for real. Nothing can change that. The reason being is Kenya understands without Eritrea, they cannot have the success that they want, because their success is going to depend on how stable they are in the region. It's going to depend if the countries in the area that neighbor Kenya are going to be stable. That means is Ethiopia and Somalia. We have a stake in Somalia. We want to see security and stability in Somalia. And also, stability and security in Ethiopia means a lot to Eritrea and Kenya. And so we have a lot of common grounds. And we also have ports, the Red Sea. We also have the Indian Ocean ports. And so you have of Kenya. So we have so many different things that we have to work, that we have to come into. We have to have understanding about all these different things, about the security, the economic development, viability of the region. And that means that they have to have the same political understanding. Not only the same political understanding, they also have to have the same diplomatic approach when they approach matters of international diplomatic relations related type of stuff. So that is one thing that is happening. That's very, very interesting. The other thing is the development in Ethiopia, how things are unfolding. It's extremely difficult to tell. I think it seems like the church situation seems to be stabilizing a little bit. The TPLF seems like they are pretty much quarantined and cannot do anything anymore. That's another thing that's taking place. And I think what that means for us, what that means is that it's Miron is going to say, yes, it's real, but is it robust? Time will tell. If there is no legit trade and investment relations, can be easily hijacked. I don't agree with that. Let me tell you why. It's real. Like I was saying, it's real because Kenya has done a great deal of work to uh, put themselves in a position of development. They have right outside Mombasa, Kenya, outside the outskirts of the main city, they have a Silicon Valley of sorts. They have a technology hub that they have created. They also have made all kinds of technological agreements, banking agreements with Ethiopia. They also have rail and road system that connects the Limu ports of Kenya with Ethiopia. And so they have tremendous stake in what's going on in Ethiopia. So the stability in Ethiopia is going to be extremely important to them, because if Ethiopia is not stable, because they have a vast border relations with Ethiopia, they're not going to be able to have good transportation links with Uganda, Rwanda. These are landlocked countries that depend on Kenya. So this landlocked countries, there are 6 or 7 countries in Africa that depend on Kenya's ports. And Kenya is becoming a financial hub. It is becoming a regional trade. And also, majority of the trade that comes from Asia, I'm talking about China, I'm talking about India, talk about India and China alone, the population in these 2 countries amounts to about 40% of the world's population. You're talking about almost half of the people of the world's population is based on those 2 countries. Not only that, you have Russia, you have Pakistan, uh, you have the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Peninsula countries. I'm talking about Qatar, Iran, Bahrain, all those different countries. You have Japan and all those Asian countries. In order to trade with Africa, they have to go through either the Red Sea, the Eritrean ports, or the Indian Ocean ports of Limu. And that is very, very, very critical for Kenya. So the stability in Somalia and stability in Kenya helps this business development. Otherwise, you have refugees going to Somalia, you have terrorism going to Somalia, you have all kinds of things happening into Somalia, which is going to be extremely difficult for them to do anything. So it is real. It is real, and I'm so glad that we are at the point that we are today. And this is something that Eritreans must know and understand, because for the first time now we have the door open in Kenya. For the first time that we have the doors open in Ethiopia. Somalia, if it's stable, and we are going to be able to access it. We are a regional player. We have been in Sudan for a long time. We've been in South Sudan for a long time. So we are regional players. And because of that, we must understand our role and how important it is and know how to play. So this is a transitional moment for us. Whether it's for Eritrean economy, whether it's for the Ethiopian economy, whether it's for Kenyan economy, for everything. We are at this point because the government and the people of Eritrea sacrificed because we paid for it. So to the question, is that real? It is real. Is it robust? It is as robust as it gets. It's the most significant development in the world. It's the most significant development in Africa. That's what you got to know. You can ask questions if you have any questions, and I'll be very happy to answer them. Mike is probably trying to get in. I don't know what's going on with Mike. What is it?
Send it to me on WhatsApp.
Okay. All right. I'll send it on WhatsApp.
I'm in my computer because if I use my phone, it's going to cut off.
All right. So that is what's going on. A lot is happening. A lot is happening. Everything that's happening, in my view, is amazing. Everything is that's happening. By the way, um, I'm working on the media aspect of it. I think we need to have a robust media outreach program, uh, and we need to really have presence. We need to be able to do a lot of things. So um, please make sure to go to nafasi.com and follow the programs that I'm instituting. That includes the YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel called Eritrea channel, and also, you can go to my Facebook, which I used to be able to share a lot stuff in. But I'm going to start sharing a lot of things. We're going to do a lot more content-based stuff. Um, we have an opportunity to play a significant role in the Horn of Africa, and I think uh, I'm going to need your participation. I'm going to need your support in a lot of different ways. And if anybody has any journalism background and they want to, volunteer their their services and just any kind of support that you can give in order to grow our presence is going to be extremely crucial. So I urge all Eritreans who have been following me over the years, writing all these articles and stuff. Things are moving more towards audio and video, and it's going to be extremely important that we have a room in that space, and it's extremely important that we do it collectively. We do it in every possible way that we can. So uh, this is true. Russia building military base in Red Sea. If so, who will be the reaction of West? Okay, so I guess what she's saying is this is Salam. No, Sema. 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 This is how I see these things developing. What Sema is asking is Russia building a military base in the Red Sea? First of all, the Red Sea is vast. You're talking about from basically from the tip of Egypt, the Suez Canal, to Djibouti. You're talking about on the other side, you have Saudi Arabia, Yemen. And so the Red Sea is vast, so it's not specific. Uh, but has Eritrea allowed the Russians to have a base? I don't think so. I don't know anything about that, and I don't think that is correct. The Sudanese have agreed to establish a base to allow Russia to establish a base and also they allowed Turkey to do that, but they reneged on those promises. And but what I see developing is there's a lot of competition in Sudan. There's a lot of competition to control the situation in Sudan. The Israeli leadership was there about maybe 10, 12 days ago. The Europeans, the United States has sent a delegation last week. So there's a lot of push to have an influence. And as you can, if you remember, the there was a lot of the Egyptians are always going to be interested. The Egyptians will never stop being interested in what's going on in Ethiopia. They're going to be interested there, and when the war was going on with the TPLF, the TPLF had infiltrated Sudan to the point where the Sudanese have taken a role by attacking the Abiy government. They actually infiltrated deep into Ethiopian territory, whatever the farmland that they've taken. I think Nyafsha, whatever the name of that area is. Uh, they were active in the war. If you remember, they were even training the Samri rebels or the TPLF that went into Sudan as refugees, and it ended up being, uh, you know, trained for the war that was going on against Eritrea and Ethiopia, and that much influence they had at that time. Senator Chriskus was in Sudan. Hold on. What's up, Mike?
Hey, bro, it's not letting me in the stream that you sent.
All right, I'll send another one.
Okay.
Check your email too.
What's happening?
Check your email. So excuse me, sorry. So what happened is the United States kind of lost that bid. You know, when the TPLF was defeated and the Sabri group was defeated, Eritrea and Ethiopia took complete control. The situation in Sudan started changing, and as you heard President Isaias say, one of the most, I guess, opportune developments, one of the best outcomes of the war against the TPLF is the fact that we were able to work with the Ethiopian military. The Ethiopian military was in its weakest point when the TPLF took over the garrisons and the Northern Command. And so at that time, Eritrea starts working with the Ethiopian government, military, and that military to military cooperation is something that's new. That is a new development. So that is a united combined force that is going to be able to expel pretty much any force that can come. And so what that means is the influence, our influence, Ethiopian and Eritrean influence in Sudan is vast, it's huge. You're talking about from South Sudan all the way down to the Red Sea, Karura, Eritrea and the Red Sea, bordering Sudan. We have control over that area. Nobody, no outside force can come and do anything there. And so what that means is any country like Russia that's in good terms with us and they want to work, help stabilize Sudan, they are going to be able to take advantage of that. And so we are going to be able to give them advantage as well, because we don't want to see enemy or anything that's going to bring a Syria-like situation in our region. And if you know, the Europeans, that's what they do. They want to keep pillaging and destroying. They don't want stability. They want to see all kinds of instability taking place, and that's what they would do in our region. And I think, you know, for us to work with the region, with countries that could help stabilize, take advantage, that are looking for peace, that want to work and partner with us, would be an advantage. So in that sense, if Russia is establishing a base in Sudan and that there's some kind of an agreement, and I think it's something that the governments of Eritrea and Ethiopia would support. That's how I look at it, and that's probably the best way to look at it. But you can shoot off your questions. Any questions that you have, please feel free to do that. Please, can you repeat again your YouTube channel and your website? My website is nafasit.com. Nafasit. You know where Nafasit is? Nafasit is just in the bottom of Asmara, probably, you know, just about maybe 15 minutes from Dirfo, Arvaraba. And then it's also it's a central point where so many from Massawa. You can go to so many different places. It's a distribution center. That's why I called it Nefasi. And nefasit.com, and also the YouTube channel, Eritrea channel. It is not known, so if you search it, it's not going to show, but at some point it's going to be able to show. So that's what it is. Okay, should Eritrea get a high-speed train system similar to the Japanese rail infrastructure? Um, um, I think Eritrea needs a rail system. The rail system that Eritrea needs is a practical system. You know, we don't need any of the fast trains that I don't think. I think the trains that we need is from Massawa ports to Hajar to the Tasani border. And the reason why, and it can branch off to other parts of the country, but I think that's the most important uh, route that I think we should be concerned about. The reason why we have to be concerned about that is that the Italians had it, by the way. The Italians had it all the way down to Tuscany. With that in mind, what it is from the Eritrean ports, you go through Karen and directly to Tuscany. And when you go to Tuscany, you're looking at the Gulich Tekeze River. You are in one of the most strategic places of the region. And what it is it is three. There are three different borders: Eritrean, Ethiopian, and Sudanese border. You're talking about the Eritrean Sudanese border, Kassala, Gadara, Kaisahisa, all their eastern countries. Uh, and you're talking about the Ethiopian side is the Tekeze Humara area, Walkait Humara area, which is the Amhara region. You're talking about 36 million people. 36 million people that um, that we can reach in terms of trade. And so it is the most important dry port area for Eritrea. It is a distribution center. We're going to be able to bring in stuff from as far as Sudan, Uganda, through Ethiopia or through Sudan into the Eritrean ports and outside. And this was, we were prevented to do that for a long time. And finally, we were able to do that. Mike finally showed up. I mean, it's about time he showed up.
Sorry, brother.
No, but I kept talking. I talked by myself for about 28 minutes. Anyway, let me finish the point that I was making. And that is going to be one of the most important trade routes for Eritrea. And because of that, the trade, I think Eritrea will focus on that if they have not already. They may have done a lot more work. Hopefully, we will hear more about that in the future. But it is, we are going to be able to connect with all this different. We are going to be a trading center in that area. So that is going to be critical, and I'm 100% sure it's going to be done. So let me go back one more. Should Eritrea get okay? Oh, what I meant was from Eritrea, Ethiopia to Kenya to South Africa. Now, I'm sure that's going to happen. I'm sure that's going to happen. Kenya already has a connection with Kenya already has a connection with Ethiopia, and if we connect, our rail system with Ethiopia, at some point, we are going to be able to have connection with other African countries. So that's going to happen. I think that's definitely going to happen. Can you hear me, Mike?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Welcome. This is Mike Seium. You know him, and I guess we are here to talk about the Black History Month in relation to Eritrea, what that means, and Mike, has the International Sports Federation going.
No, I gotta put it in there.
You got to put it in there. So, welcome, Mike. Please say something to introduce yourself.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me, and vice versa. We always support each other, me and Emmanuel, for many, many years. We've discussed it before. But the topic here is we need to share uh, the importance of us as Americans, but also as Eritreans, and the role that we've played in this country, because we tend to kind of think more about back home, and sometimes we forget the great things that we've done here to contribute to the betterment of this country and the world at large. And so I think sometimes that's not exposed at high levels. So it's time for us to start sharing. We have a lot of great young Eritreans that are doing big things, positive things, contributing to international organizations or sports or music, entertainment, whatever it may be, business, you know. And so I think sometimes the fact that we're so caught up with what's going on back home, which is very important for us for the last many years, it's still important to discuss some of the great things that we do here as Americans as well, and the connection that we have with Eritrea and how that transcends to possibly change the way things are done in this country, because the struggle has been going on for a long time, but we have to tweak it. We have to tweak it each time. Each new immigrant, each new generation has to tweak the previous struggle, because sometimes change is not there yet. As we don't see it, we keep seeing, um, things that are backsliding. So we don't want to backslide. We want to go forward, and I think it's important that we discuss those. And that's why I'm here, honored to be a part of the show tonight, and also talk about Black History Month in this very, very important month of February. And so, it's important that we discuss this. So I'm glad that you gave me the mic there.
Thank you. But I would like to ask you a couple of questions, if that's okay. The number one question that I would like to ask you is, can you talk about the history of Eritreans and how they relate to the Black History Month, or
Well,
how they
that's
can relate to the Black History Month?
well. It's important to notice first and foremost that Eritrea is supposed to be the cradle of mankind in general, and historically, a lot of um, uh, research is showing that um, Eritrea's people are ancient and have played a big role in the cradle of the entire world. And so, with that said, I think over the years, we've been pretty much pushed back because of, I guess, so many different reasons, and the location that we're in, the geopolitics and all that, as you know, has played a big role in the backsliding of that Eritrean um, originality, if you may say, because there's a lot of history books that tell different stories about different parts of Africa, and I think Eritrea was never really told by its own people, and it's time to tell it now. We have some great authors like Alam Saged Tesfaye and Tesfaye Gabrab, may he rest in peace. People like that were really digging into the past history of Eritrea and how it played a big role as an African nation, and I think that is where we start. But then forward many, many, many years, and I bring that just to bring a small context there, but forward that further, and here in America, as immigrants, we started really flocking in the late 60s, early 70s, and a lot of people came here through scholarships and other things. There are amazing things that I've found doing my research that Eritreans have done at colleges in the 60s, and so I think it's important to start there and then kind of continue to where we are today, and how we are very unique in a sense that we are connected deeply to Eritrea, but yet we're American immigrants. In most cases, you see immigrants coming here and they forget about their homelands. For the most part, they try to focus mainly on the lives here in America. And we have always really wanted to bring Eritrea on the boat with us, because we feel like we are somehow connected. Without it, we would not be who we are. So I think that's very important that we discuss that, and I hope I've kind of set the tone for you.
You have. You talked about some of the accomplishments of Eritreans in the diaspora. Can you talk about them? Can you maybe say at whoever you think has contributed and what they contributed, what their contributions were?
Well, it's going to take a little time to talk about a lot of people, mention names and all that, but we can highlight some people. And for example, we talk a little bit about in the 1960s at the University of New Mexico, we had a Eritrean who's his son is a colleague of ours, as you know, um, Alula from London. His dad was a part of the University of New Mexico soccer team, and not only that, but also he played a huge role once he left America, because he came here from the University of American University in Beirut and transferred here to get his master's. And I bring him up because his role as an individual after he left here to help Eritrea was huge, because this was pre-independence, but yet he worked all the way until after independence and played a huge role as a soccer federation head. He was in charge of the Football Federation Eritrea. He was a part of the Eritrean Airlines, one of the people who founded it. This guy was dynamic just in every possible way. And so I know that Alula and his brother Aman and some of his other siblings whom I know, Awet, and all those people know who their what their dad has contributed to Eritrea. But we want to say that these are people who came here, went back, and did some big things. We have people like Meb Keflezgi, who's done amazing things. People thought Meb just came from, um, you know, Eritrea directly and just became a runner here. And there was even an article, if you recall, someone wrote about how this guy's just another African who came here. But Meb actually grew up in San Diego, like you and me grew up here in America, and ended up becoming one of the best runners in the history of American running. So, with that, we have some NASA people in science. We have people like Coach Brahane Andabrhan, who doesn't like talking, but I'm going to bring out his name. But Coach Brahane lives in Hawaii currently and is one of the best soccer coaches in the United States, and
Wow.
was responsible for creating the UCLA, one of the people who played a big role for creating the UCLA soccer team. So in sports, I talk about that. No, we have people like Nipsey Hussle, may he rest in peace. We have, so many other Ariam sisters and other big, important people who played a big role in this culture that we live in. So in terms of the role that we played, it's a big deal. And there are so many silent Eritreans who you never hear about are doing big things, working for big different organizations. So that's important, and that's a contribution that we've given to this country. And I think while we do that, we're still somehow connected to Eritrea, and that's what makes it great for us. So I'll leave you at that, and if you have more questions, I'll elaborate.
No, I think you brought the subject of a lot of the Eritreans that contributed well. Uh, the question that I would like to ask you is, how do you think we perceive blacks and black history?
That's a tough question. Personally, for me, going to school in the South, I've seen, like in the 80s and 90s, you do see a lot of disparities. Like for example, when I went to college, you saw the fraternities sort of, separated, segregated. There's a lot of incidents I could talk about that took place because we are, after all, black skin, and so we are black. We're considered black as Eritrean Americans. We are African Americans. We're Black Americans, right? And so, at the end of the day, challenges that we face have been very, very, very much like anybody else. Like the civil rights movements paved a way for us. Like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and all those people who stood up for the rights of black people paved a way for us. And so while we may be perceived by many Americans as foreigners, we still had that, black color in our on us. So I think that's something that I think a lot of people maybe are scared. They feel like it's a touchy subject to talk about, but it's a fact, and so we're treated the same exact way as any black person, and so. But however, having said that, there's also a lot of great humanitarian people from all walks of life that have been very friendly and kind to us, and without color barriers. And so we have to be very careful how we handle that. But systemic racism also affects us in terms of wealth development, economic opportunities, things like that. And there are also people who do very well with business. So, but we don't see enough of that. We don't see enough of that. And now one of the things that we have to do as Eritreans, because we believe in self-reliance, that's the way that our country has been built upon, and we come from there, we derive from there. So we need to change the mindset of many people here to try and use the Eritrean model to be self-reliant. And it's nothing wrong with that. It should be actually encouraged by everyone in the world. Self-reliance means being able to um, fend for yourself. You should be able to do that as a human being. And I think if we start doing that, the sky's the limit. And so we have to also educate other brothers from all parts of the world, from the Caribbean, from the US, and all other parts of the world, how to be self reliant, how to become collaboratively wise and smart and do business to help the communities that we all come from.
I think one of the reasons why I did this, why we did this program, is because it is extremely important to dispel some of the, I guess, misunderstandings of blacks. There, there is a very surface-based understanding, judgmental view of blacks, without really getting deep into the subject matter, the history of it, the nuances, if you will, uh, of uh, of the black culture and history. And we need to change that fundamentally. And what do you think we need to do in order to be able to change that? I think education is uh, a major part of it. A major part of it. I'm actually looking at a book right in front of me. It's called Fragmentation. It's actually a very, very fascinating book. It's a fragmentation. It's a book by Eugene. I think you know him, Eugene. He still works. He writes for the Washington Post. And what fragmentation tells you is the history of Washington, D.C.,
Mm-hmm.
how Washington, D.C. disintegrated. And the story that he tells is really fascinating. I'm going to tell it just so I could give people a perspective on how uh, you know we can tell or we can relate to the stories. Right when Martin Luther King died in 1963. Well, that's 1963, correct? And there was the riots of Washington D.C. This is if you are familiar with Washington D.C. A lot of people are familiar with Washington D.C. because you come and visit D.C. But we are close by. I live in Virginia, in the outskirts of D.C. Uh, you're looking the 14th Street corridor, which is the U Street where uh, a lot of blacks, the civil rights movements, the professionals, the Howard University area, all those really significant historical places of Washington D.C. That is in the for decades, for over 150 years or what have you. Ever since the formation of Washington D.C., blacks came to Washington D.C. and the area that I'm talking about, and they came to Washington D.C. because they they if you come to D.C., uh, you can fight for your freedom. So because of that, a lot of blacks migrated to D.C. That's the reason why D.C. became the chocolate city. That's the reason why. But anyway, 1963, uh, that area, that is where the affluent, educated black population lived. And when the after the assassination of Martin Luther King, what happened? The society, got mad and ended up destroying. They burned all the businesses and everything else that was in that area. And so what happened? All the people that lived there, they left the area and they ended up dispersing to Maryland, to Virginia, a lot of different areas. That's how the disbursement of Washington uh, uh, took place. The center of the civil rights movement and everything else was completely, disbanded. And this is the reason I'm talking about this is after this middle class families were dispersed everywhere. That area, a vacuum was created, all the jobs were lost, and that area became a center for prostitution and drugs and all the crimes and all that kind of stuff. And this is the historic genesis of Black history. And that's the reason why we cannot have a judgmental understanding of what Black history is. We have to have a much deeper understanding when we deal with our brothers and sisters. And so I just wanted to say that, just as part of what we're talking about, and you can add to it, Mike.
No, no, absolutely. And I think I'm glad you mentioned that because yesterday I was reading an article on The Guardian and they're talking about how it would benefit if Black people became economically strong and supported each other. All that stemmed from Black History Month and the Tulsa riots. If you recall, Tulsa, Oklahoma was once a thriving Black Wall Street and they destroyed it, literally burned it. It was like a war zone because the racism at the time was just out of control. And I think that is one of the reasons most of the United States started going through changes because people saw that blacks were thriving in every aspect of social life and business, and they were millionaires. And I mean, if you read that article, it really puts it into perspective. But having said that, I wanted to talk about Meron Asgarom just mentioned here on his on this post. I could see that, and Aster and all those people that are there were paying attention to you. But Meron talked about the No More movement, which we started obviously about a year and a half, 2 years ago, if you recall. And that is a kind of movement that we need to do. That's the kind of ideas we can bring to the table, because I think the train of thought, the process of being self-reliant or independent thinking should not be a very difficult thing to do, you know but it's difficult sometimes to map out your plan in a situation like living in America. So in Eritrea's case, we sacrificed a lot. We were economically sanctioned. I mean, every ugly thing in a book was literally uh, you know uh, took place against Eritrea without going into detail. Okay, but we still overcame. We withstood all that and became, you know, who we are today, which is independent. We make decisions for ourselves, and that's not something that should be taken away from you. That is your right as a human being to have your own mindset, to control your own destiny. And I think that's what Eritrea has done. It hasn't bowed down to anybody, and it will never. The motto for Eritrea is never kneel down. And so I think that's something that we need to really implement in other communities, in other cultures. And by doing similar movements like the No More, I think that we can play a role. And I think it would benefit America. It would definitely benefit America. And I know every American out there knows exactly what Eritrea went through. They would appreciate what we did. It's a right thing to do, to be self-reliant, to be who you are, to be independent, to work hard for who you are, for what you want to do. And that should be the God-given talent of every human being. So when I say this, uh, we don't want to cry, racism this, racism that, but let's have opportunities to do what we need to do by ourselves, make decisions, come together as a people. And so, with that said, I think collaborations are very important. We did it with No More Movement. I'm actually right now working with some brothers from the Caribbean and some Africans in building some business, economic opportunities in sports. And we're working hard at it. But the sad part about it is we have our product. It's as good as any, and nobody supports us. Nobody looks at you because you're not out there flashing. You're not in the commercials. You're not this. You're not that. And we're not planning to do that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to do grassroots. We're trying to provide services the best way we can, the most proper way of doing it, And so I think by doing so, we're going to reach our goals. And we have obviously done some things in Eritrea. We're doing some things in other parts of Africa. We're doing things in Caribbean. And hopefully one day you'll bring my friend Andy here to talk a little bit about the projects that we're doing for as a Black minority-owned organization.
Thank you for mentioning that. I think along the No More movement conversation, one of the things that we did is the Africa Forum. Just ahead of the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit, we, as part of the No More movement, in a partnership with Ethiopians, um, we brought in like-minded individuals. I think all of them were Black, progressive individuals and groups and media organizations like Nitfa Freeman from the Black Alliance Movement, Black Agenda Report, and just a lot of really major. We had we had a lobbyist, media person. There were about maybe 7 or 8 people that did some amazing presentation. I wish I had some of the footage ready to play some of the things that they said, but they echo pretty much the sentiment that we are expressing today. They wanted to establish that people to people relations. They want to increase awareness. They want to educate people. And one of the things that I think happened over the years, just me observing the the blacks connecting with Africa, is the lack of knowledge, the lack of understanding. I don't think blacks understand the nuances, the political developments, how they are played, how intricate they are. When you're dealing with Bill Clinton as the black leader of the white black leader, whatever you call it. That's the kind of endearment of that they used to give him, and whatever he put forward in terms of his relationships with African countries, with South Africa, whatever. They follow the agenda. All the celebrities follow that agenda, and so they really don't understand what the likes of Bill Clinton do to African countries like Eritrea, and the influences that they've had in a lot of African countries, whether it's in Nigeria, whether it's in South Africa, whether it's in Congo, whether it's in Rwanda, Burundi, whether it's in Uganda, in Somalia, the effects that they've had in Africa, they don't understand the depth of it. The intricate work that goes on, they don't understand. And I think now with the social media type of media dissemination, that's the reason why, by the way, we should really encourage this kind of platforms, so our voices can grow and so we can be able to tell our story to more people, because this is where things are going. Everything is going towards audio and video. That's the reason why we are communicating like this, because it is critical that we do that. Our voices are going to be very, very important from now on. So we have to tell our story. We have to tell our story directly. We have to tell our story in our schools, in our educational institutions, in our workplaces, and everything. And if we are able to communicate with each other in the manner that we are talking about today, I think we're going to be able to pass our message to a lot of people. So it is critical. You can add to it, Mike, please.
No, absolutely. Look, at the end of the day, there was one brilliant um, message that I found during my research when I was doing the Howard University soccer team in 1971 and 74, which I talk about quite often because I did a lot of research on it. I spent a lot of time on that. And the reason I bring it up is because Coach Lincoln Phillips, a Trinidadian, was able to bring in with people in Howard University, with administrators that are American. They hired him, and he was able to bring in all these people from all different parts of the world that are Africans, because it's an all black school, obviously. And so they went in there in 1971, won a championship, and the NCAA, which was systemically running the entire you know, monopoly of college sports, decided to take away the national championship, and they sanctioned them for 2 years. But in 1974, Howard came back strong, legally, properly, and they won the national championship undefeated without losing a single game, 19-0. And so the reason I bring that up is because it was black excellence at its best. And so, with that said, there was a guy by the name of Dom Basil, a Trinidadian, and I bring him because he was a person who came into the Howard locker room, and he spoke about the triangle of blackness. He called it that, it's something that brings all blacks together from Africa to here and back to Africa again, to, to Caribbean here, the Latin American countries, the Afro blacks, all that brought together and back to Africa again. And that's how Howard was, because it was a team that literally had everybody from everywhere. We had players from Eritrea, may he rest in peace, Ande Mikael, and also had players from Ghana, Guyana, West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, all parts of the world, Caribbean. We're talking about Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, and so I think the connection amongst Black people from all regions of the world would bring a better opportunity for all Black folks in general, in my opinion. So that Pan African movement, and this was done during during the civil rights era. So I think that the tone has been set. It's been practiced. It's been over 40, 50 years. Now it's time to take it to the next level. And I think we can do that by literally showing that self-reliance. I keep going back to self-reliance because we have to be able to make decisions on our own. We have to be able to create opportunities for other people. We have to open up businesses. We have to, we really have to really look at the next generation, because our generation now is the generation that is going to transcend, to try and to transfer that ability to the next generation. We took it from the previous generation, the baton. Now we're passing it to the next generation. And so, in order for us to do that, we have to be very, very disciplined, and we have to really pay attention. But there's going to be a lot of distractions. As you can see, there's a lot of distractions with this movements that keep coming and they die, and they have other agendas and all that stuff. We need to really focus on what blackness means, how we can be Black excellence. Like Howard did, 19-0 without losing a single game. 19-0. Okay, that is excellence at its best. No college team has been able to do that ever. And so I think that's what we have to do. We have to become very disciplined. We have to pay attention. We can't get distracted. And I think the time is to do it is right now as we speak.
Mike, thank you. You brought some, you brought the civil rights movement. Can you talk about what the influence of blacks on Eritreans and the civil rights movement, and how that may have impacted or impacted our background information, all that kind of stuff?
Well, as you know, in Eritrea itself, we had apartheid, but most people don't know about that. I mean, the Italians were there. Our parents didn't go to school until they were only able to go to school until fourth grade, and so the Italians were there. There was a lot of issues, and so we were always conscious of it from the get-go, from the early stages of being an Eritrean, being African, being Black. And so we faced a lot of problems previous the colonization, but also previous all the other international agenda of bringing Eritrea as part of Ethiopia. We faced a lot of previous problems. Our forefathers, but we were very strong-willed people, and so I think we're able to overcome it, to challenge it, and to become strong and leave a long legacy that allowed the struggle to start in 1961 and on to the next generation and where we are today. But having said that, there was a lot of influence in the process. The American culture came into Eritrea through Kagnu, they call it Kagnu station. As you know, I know that you did something on your book about that. You did some research, but that influence also brought a lot of American influence into the Eritrean society. And so I think we're able to learn a lot about what went on here. And our parents they knew all about the civil rights movement. So that's what's been going on. And I think that it has a lot of strong connections in what we're discussing today. I can't hear you. Your audio is gone.
Yeah. I put myself in mute. My apologies. But I think Miron, as Karam said, any event in Massawa would be great. And, just, yeah, that would be great. Massawa, that would be amazing. And Nafasi too.
Absolutely, Nafasit. And
Yeah.
Masawa, I tell you, Masawa is going to be the next big thing based on what I saw from my previous trips in the past. I think it's got potential to become one of the. It's going to be hot there. It's a very hot place, but just like other parts of the Middle East, I think Masawa has a potential to become a very big, epic center for economic development, and I think it's going to play a role in Eritrea's growth as a nation. So with that, I think Masawa, obviously Asmara, that's the great part about Eritrea is that the government, despite all the attacks, despite all the sanctions, despite all the things that happened, they focused not only on one city, they focused on several cities. They focused on villages. They focused on small towns because that's where people actually are going to make a difference as a nation develops. You know,
Definitely, we'll come and talk more about it. But let's stay grounded on our subject matter, and that is the history of the civil rights. And I'm going to touch on so I can get us back on that subject. I think it's very very important that we talk about it. I actually did an article about the history of sports in Eritrea, the history of cycling, and one of the things that I wrote in that, I'm going to read it. Eritrean cycling history is not known in Black history. However, like their Black counterparts around the world, Eritreans faced incredible adversity and hardship, yet they came out victorious. This includes Constantine Henrique de Zubiera, the first Black athlete to compete at France 1900 Olympics; John Taylor, the first Black athlete to win the gold medal as part of the U.S. relay team in 1908 in London. Perhaps the most storied Black athlete, Jesse Owens, won 4 gold medals during the Olympic Games in Berlin in 1936, crushing Hitler's myth about white Aryan supremacy. Eritrean athletes must be seen in this light because of their monumental achievements during World War II, during turbulent global conflicts, while under oppressive colonialism. Eritrean cyclists fought hard and demonstrated they were capable against the Italian colonizers. By doing so, they proved that Black Africans are not inferior. Eritrean cyclists scored huge victories when Gabramariam Gobru won in 1939 and Waldemar Askodom, nicknamed Berbere, won in 1946 over the Italian colonizers. These victories paved the way for more success. Eritrean Olympians Ahaye Bata and Mesfin Tesfaye were the first Black Africans to compete in the 1956 Olympics in Melbourne, Australia. The competitive nature of Eritrean athletes that started with the first generation continued during the oppressive Ethiopian colonial periods from 1960 until the 1970s. This is what I wrote about. I was writing about Eritrean cyclists, and basically what I did was connected to the history of Blacks, and that is what I want to talk about, and that is our history is relevant Black history, and we have to understand the relevancy of it. And the civil rights movement was influential in Africa. Martin Luther King was known; his death resonated around the world because he was speaking to the rights of Blacks, and this is something that resonated everywhere in Africa. So the Black civil rights movement was not only happening in the United States, it was happening around the world, Eritrea being a part of it. And the other influence that the American life, the Black American life had on Eritrea, this is something that I did in my book, that I history of the USA and Eritrea. And it is very, very
Mhm.
important that we know. And that
Absolutely.
is, go
If I
ahead.
could add, if I could add also, if we talk about sports, so we've done some amazing things. It was just a year ago, if you recall, I was in Beijing, China, and Pyongyang, and then, Shannon Abada with Eritrea, no snow in Eritrea, no winter sports. Obviously, Shannon was connected through his, Eritrean background, and we were able to achieve a huge achievement that most people don't talk about. But I think it's an amazing thing. Shannon finished in the top 40 at number 39, and some of the previous winners did not even finish the race because it was very tough conditions. But Shannon made history. Right now, he stands currently as one of the best black skiers in the world. And as a matter of fact, I would even dare to say that he's the best black skier in the world right now in alpine skiing. And so, you know, transcending different sports. Like you say, Daniel Teklahaimanot, who, by the way, today is in Rwanda, coming back, making a comeback, racing in a race in Rwanda, along with the Eritrean national team. And so, we have Daniel, who made history as the king of the mountains. We have Shannon. We have Marhawi Kudus. We have so many other athletes. And we even have people like Alexander Isak who are doing big things. And these are a collaborative of many, many different talented individuals that happen to have Eritrean background. And for a country that's small, okay, the amount of internationally great athletes and musicians and entertainers, whatever it is that I think we do pretty well, because I think it goes to show you that the can-do attitude of the Eritrean people is something that we want to transcend to the Black community as well. And also, we learn a lot from the Black American culture, as well as all the other cultures that are Black from different parts of the world. And what we do is we have to kind of come together as a people to try and break barriers. I hate when, of course, it's great news when you hear somebody saying it's the first Black person to do this, the first Black person to do that. Why? Why is it taking this long? Why is it like that? It shouldn't be like that. We're all humans, right? So we should have the opportunities. We should have the ability. We've shown, there shouldn't be one particular sport one Black person is good at. Everybody should be a part of every sport, every entertainment, everything in life. People should be able to do. That's the way we should think if we're going to think about humanity, and if we think about the human race, right? But we have a challenge because of color of our skins. For many years, we've been pushed back. Now it's time to change that mindset and become, strong in whatever that it is that we're doing. So hopefully, have added some value to what you're saying.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. I think, to add some more to what you're talking about, um, the influence of blacks, of Black history on Eritrea is significant culturally. That's something that we can talk about. You're talking about. I grew up in the 70s in Asmara, and we grew up listening to Marvin Gaye, uh, Marvin, all the black artists, Luther Ingram, Joe Simon, James Brown, and the tonality, everything that they did at that time was very, it touched on the culture. The movies that came up, like Woodstock, and, Woodstock is something in California, in the Los Angeles area. This was a huge concert that highlighted the Black Civil Rights movement. And Eritreans were, the Michael Jacksons, all that. The cultural influence on Eritreans was really immense because we saw the rights movement unfold. Because of Kanya Station, we were exposed to the American culture. And so none of it was strange to us. Eritrea was very, very, very familiar with what's going on in the United States. So the Black history has a tremendous amount of uh, influence on our cultural understanding, global cultural understanding that I don't think we can see lightly. So it's good to be able to share this kinds of sentiments with the Eritrean people, with the Eritrean community abroad, and to really express to them, how do we relate to this Black history, to this incredible history, and how do we appreciate it, and that's the kind of stuff that
Yeah. If I
you know.
could mention also on this Black History Month, we want to say thank you to a great African American, Clarence Holbert, who designed our Nakfa currency of Eritrea. That's a great connection. I think the U.S. Embassy website or Facebook page did something on it yesterday. But I just want to say that I think Mr. Holbert was an amazing human being, and I think that was one of his proudest works that he'd done. And I think, from what I heard, they put in one nakfa. He passed away, may he rest in peace. And they put a one nakfa note in his coffin when he was when his family did that. So it goes to
That's
show
a
you
good
that
start.
what kind of connection there was there. So I think the sky is the limit if people just got together, and Tiffany Haddish and Nipsey, may rest in peace. All those people should be able to hopefully influence some of the other African Americans to kind of work with us in terms of bridging the gap together. We need to do that. We need to work with our Caribbean brothers. We need to work with African, West African, South African brothers and colleagues. And I think that this No More movement is a great start. With that said, I hope we have shared a lot of the things that we wanted to discuss on this Black History Month. It's a great month. May is Eritrean History Month, so we'll probably discuss something at that time as well. But February is really a great month for our communities around the world.
Mikey, you make excellent points, and I think we've said enough to where a lot of questions have come up. We can address them. If you have any more questions about the subject matter that we talked about, and if you have questions about anything else, we'll give you some more time and we can talk about it. And so please, share your thoughts and your ideas. We'll be very happy to hear what you have to say. And one of the things that they said is, should Eritrea have a trade center? It is natural for Eritrea to have a trade center. A trade center is a location. A trade center is a place. Uh, so Eritrea is a trade center. Historically, it has been a center of trade for generations. The Red Sea is, one of the most important trading routes throughout history of mankind, and it's only going to get better now that the real owners of the Red Sea, the Eritrean people, are in control of it. They are in control of their destiny. That means that we have one of the best geographical locations in the world. The Red Sea is the best geographical locations. All the trade that comes from Europe passes into uh, Asia goes to Eritrea. Everything that comes from Asia goes into Europe, and Africa goes to Eritrea. This is the best location. That's the reason why they don't want us to have control of it. But they cannot do anything about it because Eritrea has already taken control of it. Do you know when we took control of it? We took control of it during the independence of Eritrea. When the Eritrean people decided that they're going to take control of it, they took control of it then. They took control of it when they knew how to be able to defend themselves, to stand for each other, to stand against any kind of a foreign entity in the 50s, the 40s, the 60s, and the 70s. When we got our independence and the EPLF won with the people of Eritrea by its side, independence, and after 24 years of aggression, when Eritrea ascertained that nothing is going to be able to nudge the independence of Eritrea, that is when we ascertain the future of the region in ways that nobody ever anticipated. So this is where we are today. We are a center of trade. So a trade center, if you're referring to it like a trade center, a building, I think we are a trade center. Eritrea is a trade center by every means. Mike, you trying to say something?
Yeah, no, I was on the phone. I muted it, but no, exactly. And you know what? To what you just said, Someone just wrote over here, for 80 years, we were challenged. Pre-independence, after independence, we've been challenged. And if only people could understand deep down inside the kind of sanctions are put on us. You couldn't even buy spare part. If you listen to some of our leaders, for example, may he rest in peace, Lamin Muhammad, our PFDJ head, uh, he talks in a very beautiful interview he gave about how you couldn't even buy a screw to parts to build things because we are sanctioned. We are put into a frozen nation. And this was done by design. And even all this opposition comes to us because either they are not aware what's going on, or they are aware and they just want to make an excuse to say that, why can't the government do this? Why can't people do this? So what I'm trying to tell you is, as a black nation, we suffered. We are a classic example of people who overcame challenges despite every obstacle that came our way. And so I want us to be the example for all black people around the world, to stand up, to defend, to become wise and smart, to collaborate, to work hard. This is the Eritrean way. We're not trying to be special. We're not trying to get credit. We're not, and that's not the way the EPLF worked. That's not the way the Eritrean government works now. But what we do is we do survive, and we try to thrive. We try to become the best that we can be. We try regional integration is the next step. As you know, lately we've been working with Kenya, South Sudan. We're working with all the different parts of the Horn of Africa region, and gradually we are going to start working with other parts of Africa to just allow them to think for themselves. That's not a crime. Anybody who says so, you are wrong. I'll challenge you on it. Every person has a right, black, white, Asian, whatever it is. You have a right to be independent, to think for yourself, to do what's best for yourself. You should not be dictated by others. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Bob Marley, man, these magic words always resonate with many, many people, but we have to always remain strong. That's the black way. That's the African way. That's the Eritrean way. That's the human way. You've got to be independent. We need to stress that. That's why I say this to you every day when we talk on the phone, me and you, we talk about how important it is to be independent. The Eritrean government clearly is a template of that, and we should learn from it.
I think our people are with it. We're in a good place historically. We are in the best place we've ever been, and we need to understand what we're doing here collectively. I think the collaboration, as Mike said earlier, cooperation is going to be extremely critical. I have created this platform so we can share our points of views. We can express our views. We can network. We can create ways to reach out to other communities. To create ways to bring other communities to us, to be able to have a broader audience, to share our stories, and so people can share their stories to us to enrich our lives. This is a great opportunity, a great opportune moment in our history. We were denied life. We were denied existence. Eritrea was literally denied existence. We cannot trade. We cannot bank. We cannot bring educational materials. We cannot develop our economies. We were just shut down, and the TPLF was instrumental in facilitating that. And we opened, we, what do you call, opened it clear. We took off the cloud, the dirt, everything that was just hovering above us when we destroyed the TPLF. And we are in a new history. Eritreans talk in terms of threats. What's going to happen? What's the United States going to do? What if TPLF comes back and does this? What if the Ethiopian government comes back and does this? I think we have put enough layers, foundation to sustain us to the future. This is a momentous opportunity. This is a time where we have to really understand exactly what's going on and run and achieve everything that we want to achieve. We have Ethiopia open to us. We got to make sure to use that opportunity. We have Kenya open to us. We have to make sure that we use that opportunity. Sudan has always been open. Somalia is going to be open as soon as it's settled. People interest to be, and we need to take advantage of it. We are in South Sudan. We have been in Sudan for a long time, and so let us take this moment in history and use it to our advantage.
Absolutely. And I think I'm going to close with that. If you don't mind, I think I got, I've been busy the last week. I had a lot of things going on. But with that said, I want to conclude by saying, Aman, if you don't mind, that regional integration was part of the EPLF's structure. And so, the way that this nation was built, there were six important points that were created to full development of the nation. One of them was regional development, which we are at that stage right now. We've done all the other things. We've gotten our independence. We've created a lot of things that are basic for our people, like the basic necessities of life, like schools, hospitals, clinics, whatever it is that you want to call it, and food, being sufficient in food security. And so now it's time for regional integration, economic development, and I think the rest is going to take course, and we're going to go in the right direction. So with that said, we become the example, and that's what this topic is. Obviously, the Black History Month has a connection to it. We become the classic example. We become the template for what should be done in terms of designing a way to become independent. So now, having said that, there's a lot of people here who are, I appreciate your comments here. I see a lot of comments here. Nakura Batse, he talked about you cannot import spare parts for the airplane, so small as nuts. That's what he was saying, and he's right. And so that's what I was trying to say earlier. So we were literally blocked off from buying anything. Okay, that's something that a lot of Eritreans and non-Eritreans don't understand what we went through in order to survive the last 20 something years as a result of the TPLF being the puppet of the people who are running the show around the world. But now that has changed. With that said, I want to say with Eri International Sports, I want to plug in a little bit. The website has had some feature stories, and we've been a little slow the last week, but we're going to bring more great sports news for you in the next week. I thank Emmanuel for giving me this opportunity to talk a little bit about Area International Sports. It's now full-fledged nonprofit. We're working on fundraising and development, and we're trying to do it the proper way. We're legal. We're building, and so we want to tell you that we're helping out a lot of young Americans, Eritrean Americans here in the USA. We're also doing other projects in other parts of the world. So that's number one. Number two, I wanted to talk about the Tie-Dye Nation, whom I spoke about earlier. It's a brand that we use for our uniforms, and we're working on a lot of other sports ecosystem projects, and we'll touch base. Hopefully we'll be back and talk a little bit about it. I'll bring Andy Salandi, my Trinidadian colleague, to the show, and we can talk about it a little bit as well. It's a movement. We're trying to really do some big things with sports. Also, I wanted to touch base. There's a lot of things going on in the next few months, like for example the women's um, International Women's Day is coming up, and then once that comes up, as you know, Emmanuel, the rest is all busy all the way until August, September, and so we got a lot of Eritrean activities coming up in the next few months. Should be ready for that, and I think that's part of the Black history culture. That's our culture, is part of the Black history of the United States because we're Eritrean Americans. And I think that's where I can end it. If you allow me to end it there, or if you have any questions, I'll take one or two questions and I'll call it quits.
I think that's good enough. I think that thank you everybody for for following what we're doing. I think the discussions were extremely important, and I think the importance of this is going to grow over time. And the only thing that I would like to say, the only thing that I would like to say is like the programs. If you want us to grow this, to play a role, you have to play a part in this. It is crucial that you do that. You do it by becoming members, subscribers, participants, sharers, and all that kind of stuff. It's crucial that we do that. You need to support. You must support. We must support. I mean, when I say we must, it is something that we have to do. We don't have a choice but to do it. We have been doing this together. Now, in order to take it to the next level, I've been writing a lot of articles. I've written hundreds of articles, and Mike has, like I have, and we went through some of the toughest moments in our history. Now, this is time to elevate it to the next level, and I have created a platform, nefasi.com, Eritrea YouTube channel, among a lot of other things. We have a lot in the pipeline. We have a lot of people that are going to come and interview with us. Very, very important people from the Horn of Africa, here from the United States, and to be able to educate our community, to be able to exchange with our community. And so, with that in mind, I would like to thank Mike for coming, for always being a part of my life, and just a very, very, very good friend, an amazing individual, just really, really super special individual, and that I have done something for you. I have a theme song for you, for your shows, for everything. And so I play music, by the way. I play keyboards and I love music. And so you probably know this song. If you don't know it, then there's something wrong. So if you can hear it. This is going to be a theme song.
I like it. I like it. With that said, I want to say, please support.
Wait. But that has other bit.
I've heard it. I'm trying to figure out what it is.
This song is by Yunus Ibrahim. Sport
Sports.
That's what it is. That's what you gotta use for your theme song.
I've heard it. Yunus Ibrahim was a legend. No, with that said, Emmanuel, I'm going to say to you, please, everyone, support, as you listen to the music, support Emmanuel's Eritrea channel. I think that what Emmanuel is doing is a great thing. We are starting this. We're going to pass it on to the next generation. We're working with a lot of young people also. So we want to say, appreciate you, appreciate everybody, appreciate Emmanuel. And I want to say thank you. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. We'll call it quits.
Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. Peace.
Take care.